The internet is cracked, the show that asks the question, can we coexist with our creation?
Hello, my name is Seth Camillo,
And I am Caroline Risberg, and we are The Internet is Cracked.
and today we are very, very, very lucky to have a very smart man who I go back 30 years with from debate and other things, hanging out. Niko Poulakos, who is a professor of communications at the University of Rhode Island. And he is shares our interests for the internet, and he is gonna talk to us about various topics. Why don't we start with what do you want to start with, Nico?
At the top, when we
Yes.
were talking about our current context
Yeah.
of living in the
Yeah.
new normal of post-COVID, and being online, doing everything like
Yes.
Yeah.
video conferencing.
It's a good one.
How do you feel this has affected you intellectually? I know that to me, I have felt a sense of distance. It's not the same thing as being in the room with people.
Right.
You know?
It's definitely not. And there's a feeling that something has shifted. And that sense of something shifting is so significant that it's sublimated into other parts of culture. I don't know if you've seen this on TikTok recently, but there are a bunch of people posting about how they perceive a timeline shift in reality. Or
Oh,
some people have these conspiracy notions of, you know what, there was a recent firing up of the CERN Large Hadron Collider. And I
Yes.
think what happened is a particle was misplaced, and now we're all in a parallel universe.
okay.
The structure, like what we would say in cultural studies, the structure of feeling of how like being a stranger in the world like feels, that has radically changed.
Mm,
And habits have changed, ways of interacting have changed.
mm,
And, there are standard things like people talk about like polarization online and increase of conspiracies, and the ways that people are more or less paranoid and sort of aggravated by one another more so than before, and on edge.
mm,
And you work with young people who this is, for us, this is a smaller proportion of our life has been in this haze, this post-COVID haze. But you work with people who a large part of their lives, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, has been spent, their formative years have been spent this way.
right.
That's a very good
Mm,
point, Seth.
yeah.
The percentage of their life spent in that time is
Yeah.
significant, way more than ours, right?
Right.
So they experience that shift as a strange reality. Um, the only thing I can liken it to that I've seen in years past is when we were undergoing the post 9/11 war on terror kind of political
Mm-hmm.
um, period of time where people were on edge. If you see something, report it. People
Yeah.
were freaked out about terrorism, possibly rightly so, but it lasted a long, long time until the United States finally found and killed Osama bin Laden.
Yes.
And then all of these students started celebrating. And it was like during finals time, I remember like the time of year that it happened, and people were up in arms. And I'm like, what is happening here? I've never seen students care about politics in quite this way. It's like,
Yeah.
why did they celebrate a particular act? Because it was the end of an era that lasted so long for them,
Yeah.
right? Just a period of 7 or 8 years of just being trapped in this ongoing, anxious political state. And then we got him, and they're thinking, thank God it's over. Like, we can move on. Um, it would be nice to have that feeling, but we have the opposite now.
Right. Right.
COVID just happened, and we've like shrunk away from mass society, and we are cut off and individuated. And now we have a whiplash in the other direction, like, oh my God, something happened. And that sense in students and young people, especially, manifests itself in not communicating. Like
And how do you think the internet plays a part in this?
it has become a stream of information and tasks that they have to negotiate. And I have never before in my life seen as much cheating as during this time period, because it's all about figuring out technological solutions to a technological apparatus.
Okay.
Um, and students are connected through their phones and texting each
Hmm.
other, and it facilitates the exchange of particular ideas, but it doesn't create any kind of context or atmosphere. And that's what students are so reticent to be involved in, to like let go and just sit around and talk. They need structure and activity, or they'll just run away into their phone, into like do something that they like, that will like keep their attention, that will make them not be in a vague space. And I've never experienced this weirdness where students can't have conversations, they can't deliver speeches as effectively. There's such little talking, such little space of communication. That's a primary
That's very interesting. So in a classroom, do you put kids together to be like, okay, you guys gonna work this out, or whatever it is, work in groups, but have hard to communicate within those groups, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I do my best, and I go around and I facilitate conversations
Yeah.
among them, but, one or two groups out of a whole classroom will be talkative, and mostly each member of a group will just sit with their phone or their laptop and look up things. It's just like, "Well, I'm just gonna look for something that I can say that will add to the conversation," but they don't know
Oh.
how to ask questions or just to be participatory. There's a real anxiety of sharing of oneself, and I think social media has a lot to play in the creation of that kind of subjectivity for students. If you are in a social media space and you're posting something, you're responding to something, you're creating something, you're tagging something, you have so much time to set a filter, to crop an image, to put the right caption, to find the tagline. And
Mhm.
you can take like 20 minutes, just to put up one photo or respond.
Mm.
That kind of control is incredibly unique, that all of this technology allows you to do, and it allows you to capture yourself or promote yourself in a particular way. And that kind of power in real time is unfathomable, right? How do I edit
Wow.
myself? How do I say this thing? How do I like, sort of make myself fun and flirty and interesting, like right here on the spot? There's no social technology that they have been taught that they can do that or believe themselves to be capable of doing that. And so there's an asymmetry here where technology is giving them all this control and power to develop themselves, but to develop the avatar of themselves, not their core selves among other people.
Very cool avatar of themselves. When I was teaching, when I was a professor, I basically, I gave up trying to stop them from grabbing their phones. I would get really pissed at first, but then I was like, I could see it was an addiction. Like they weren't, I could see that it wasn't really, it wasn't meant for me to send a message. It was, they were just so addicted to their phones that it just, they couldn't go an hour and a half
Yeah.
without
Some
looking
people
at it.
put in screen time at the top of the hour, like, okay, let's take a 5-minute break so that you can catch up on your phone stuff.
Oh my god.
Um, yeah, I mean, you have to busy them, and, do cringe-worthy things just to get them, in a different kind of headspace or talking with one another. But it begs the question, like, when Sherry Turkle, she does a lot of work on social media. She's at MIT, and she was like, a real at the forefront of understanding the internet as a community space and as a social media space. But then she started finding all of these terrible impacts of social media, and ultimately, for her, it impacts in conversation. The
Mhm.
thing that we're losing is the art of conversation. Now, you might think,
Mhm.
well, that's just a question of etiquette, how we we'll figure that out, But conversation is the backbone of how to teach empathy and ethics. If you
Right.
don't have that face-to-face situation in which you are aware of your impacts on another human being and that it matters back to you how they respond, if you don't have that, then you have the internet. Then you have a different kind of space altogether. And they call it, when you're on the internet, the online disinhibition effect. It is a
Right.
completely different space that you're in. And so it has different rules and different ways of interacting. So you get trolling, you get bullying, you get stalking, you get all these terrible things as people experiment. What can I do? What kind of space is this? But they don't tend to do that when they're right in front of another person.
No.
And so
Interesting.
that's what we're losing. It's not just like the ability to talk, it's the ability to relate. And that's why the kids have to use memes all the time. They're trying to find ways to relate to each other. That's the word they use all the time. Oh, it's very, I use this because it's very relatable. Like, why do you need to relate? Because it's missing.
That is very, very interesting. I mean, I honestly, as I said earlier, I don't have children, but I've seen my friends who have kids, how they growing up, and they have a problem with it's easier for, well, one of the moms was telling me, and she said they have noticed that the kids, it's easier for them to have all the friends over, and the kids are not talking to each other, they're texting each other. And I'm like, what do you mean texting each other?
In the same
No,
room.
in the same room. It's like, how is that possible? But then I just think it's crazy. But how do you then, for example, meet someone, you want to date someone, or you want to talk to someone, or finding friends as you were saying, I think it's so important, like human contacts. I mean, we need to be able to communicate. We need to be able to touch and feel and hug, even though I don't have children, but I start seeing it. It worries me.
Yeah, I think that's a very good example of how people can have a sense of control when they're on a device. And there's a certain limited number of options that you have when you're on someone's platform, right? If I'm on Facebook and someone posts something, I can reply with like a happy face or a like or a thumbs up or something like that. But I only have certain limited options. And so that makes it a finite thing that I can control and respond to. It's way more wide open in the real world of conversational space between people, right? So when you put people together, it's going to be way easier for them to control the conversation through their phones amongst one another than to talk openly into the air, right? There's just way too many variables. It's just too much open space for them to handle.
All three of us were born, riding bikes. I mean, the internet
We're the
was
last of the feral children.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, you said something the other day. Seth, we were
Yeah.
talking, we talk about stuff like this all the time. And you live close to the schoolyard. And you said, I actually don't hear kids playing on the outside at the school. They are smaller, right? I don't know
Yeah, it's
but
a
that's
great school. No, it's
a
absolutely
great school.
true. But when I was a kid and, went to school, we were riding our bikes and, playing football and doing all those things that kids do, exploring the creeks and climbing trees. And now, honestly, I wouldn't know. I'm a block away from a grade school. I would have no idea I am, you know?
That's a huge shift that has happened for our generation to the next. We have been part of this whole tradition of you kick your kids outside, you tell them to like go away. So the whole world was an exploration and a giant experiment. Sociality, environmental play, like interacting with each other and the world, like that was the real life internet 1.0 for kids. Now, not only have they lost access to that and been channeled into a hyper-focused, sort of limited set of options that is platform-based, now they are under the kind of surveillance that is nightmarish that we would have just like absolutely revolted against when we were. There's no way. My sister, who grew up in this time with me, when we were kids, just busted her kid watching him drive the car on her phone, and she calls him. She's like, "I see you going 90 miles an hour on the interstate."
Yeah.
He's 16 years old. Like, yeah, he shouldn't be doing that, but like, what kind of world does this kid live in? When he's like 16 and has to worry about his mom being able to see him on a satellite. Like,
Well, yeah, and I saw there's a woman who's a computer. No, she's a school teacher. Developed a program that for her child that other people are now using. That if she calls and he doesn't answer, she puts like a 10-minute countdown. Basically, if he doesn't call back within that 10 minutes, his phone is
Explode?
no, it's bricked. It's bricked. He has no access to his phone. And until he can get the only way he can get back on the phone is by getting a passcode from his mother.
yeah, that's one of the major things that I keep coming back to, or keep looping around back to, which is filter bubbles or echo chambers.
The internet is kind of exactly opposite to the way the creators of the internet wanted it to be. They wanted it to be a space for knowledge and sharing and scientific discourse, and it's really turned into something I don't think they intended or could have imagined. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Now we have to be careful to sort two things out here. One, that's obviously correct. We have experienced this explosion of polarization. It's, sort of magnified the extremist voices on both ends. There is this kind of magnification of extremism and polarization and filter bubbles and echo chambers that happen as a result.
Because of the internet.
Because the structure of the internet demands a different kind of economy.
To me, it's becoming very dangerous. And I definitely think social media and all of this definitely are pushing out all this fake news. There's probably a bunch of fake news.
People circulate things that are knowingly false. And people screw with algorithms in order to get their stuff snuck in. For example, the number one fake news headline in 2016 that was circulated worldwide was a completely fabricated story out of Macedonia. A lot of fake news was coming out of Macedonia because a bunch of teenagers figured out, like, oh shit, if we say all this stuff and put it in a web template, fucking Facebook will take it and like circulate it. We'll make a bunch of money. They're making thousands of dollars a month, way more than their parents. So they would come up with headlines, interesting headlines that people would circulate. The Pope endorses Donald Trump for president. That was the number one fake news headline, right?
Wow.
This can't be solved, really. You can get the extreme cases out, like people who post on Facebook that the election is not held this day, it's held on a different day. Like, that's an outright lie that really misinforms and misleads the public. That needs to go, right? But if you say, like, I'm a conservative, I'm running against this other conservative in the primary, that conservative is for green jobs. That conservative, like, votes liberal on these things. And like the other person's like, that's a lie. I didn't do that. Like, is the one politician, is he going to be punished for saying that? That's a made up lie. No, you can't police that discourse. Like, people have to be allowed to like say what they believe.
Kim Kardashian was probably not what they were thinking about when they were putting together the internet,
Yeah.
Isn't it like 20th season now of the Kardashians or something
Oh,
crazy
gosh.
like that? I know. I
She
haven't
has,
seen
I
it.
don't, doesn't she have like billions of followers? I don't know. I mean,
Probably.
Actually, the number one most followed person in all of social media is Cristiano Ronaldo.
Ronaldo, yeah.
Oh, really?
He's
Okay.
a soccer star, and it's a good thing to like ask an American audience, because they never think that an international person would be the most followed person in the world. But it stands to reason. The United States is 5% of the world's population.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And we think that we're the end all be all. It's like,
He's someone I could say that's good to at least he have billions of followers or how many he has. I mean, he's an amazing soccer player. I mean,
yeah, he's a force of nature.
yeah.
But I will leave you with one thing that you can sort of ask other people about, like what's coming on the internet in the future. The algorithms, the intelligence, the prediction analysis, that's all coming real fast, and
Yeah.
they're going to get incredibly exact. Okay. And it only works because we're trapped in habits and we're trapped in these bubbles, and the internet isn't providing something. But there's a twist in the plot. Social media 3.0 is coming along, and social media 3.0 is hard to imagine, but all you have to do is picture this. Imagine that everyone has Facebook, but there's no owner. There's no Mark Zuckerberg. There's no corporate headquarters. It's all absolutely distributed between every user. There is no giant entity. There's only the users on social media. That model is going to happen eventually. And that's based upon the new technology of the blockchain, of people linking together and being in this thing, but no one's necessarily in control of it. It's fully transparent and accessed by everyone.
What
But-
is a blockchain? If you could explain that to
In very simple terms, I think I can. A blockchain is simply a document. A document that every single person gets a copy to.
because I've heard with Bitcoin that exactly if there's if there's a nuclear war, if there's one computer that works, it will have all the information for everybody else who owns a Bitcoin, so you could just restart.
Yes.
Is that true?
The internet was built upon this idea, Seth. The internet
Yeah.
comes from the military, and it was designed to withstand a nuclear war. We wanted communication to happen of all possibilities. Any city could talk to any city. So if half of them were erased, all of the other cities could talk to them. There's no command control center. There's no one point
Yeah.
of fundamental unity of everything. That idea is fully transparent, and it's confirmed by every single user.
Okay.
So the way that Bitcoin and the blockchain works is everybody gets a copy. And if you try to mess with it and like, oh, I'm going to change this, I want this amount of money in my bank account, you have to change like 1 million documents all at the same time. You can't do it. Everyone has the same document, and once it gets confirmed with everyone else, boom, it gets locked in. That's reality.
So it's pure transparency, basically.
It's transparency and confirmation.
Confirmation. Okay.
And that's what people, that's why mining is a misnomer. There's no like actual mining of Bitcoin. There are people who work to confirm all of the transactions. And so
Okay.
they do decryption with their computers and magically unlock something and say, that's the transaction. This has been confirmed. And then multiple other computers confirm it. And then boom, we have an agreed upon set of facts.
Mm.
That's a blockchain. It's a document that says this person has this money, this person has that money, and everybody agrees. That's the whole ball of wax. It's just a giant Excel spreadsheet. And there's no coins.
Yeah.
There's nothing. There's just like, you have positive in your bank account. You have this much in your bank account. That's it.
Interesting.
But everybody agrees. All the millions of users agree to what the reality is. That's what makes it so powerful. That's why
That's
it's a
amazing.
block. It's a chain. And once it gets set, it is set.
That's amazing. It's amazing. It's a very good explanation.
Hopefully,
Well,
yeah.
Well, we will let you go right now. Yeah, you have explained a lot. This has
I
been
know.
really very illuminating. Really
You guys
appreciate it.
really got me going, and I was excited
I
to.
know.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know.
Thanks for
Love it.
stimulating conversation. I really appreciate it.
Everything is changing so quickly. So in 6 months, it's different every 6 months.
It's
every
going
6
so
months.
fast.
Yeah, I think that's a truism. But it's how we discuss it. We can I think your approach, Seth, is wonderful. Talking about the promise of the internet in the early 1990s and what kinds of political obstacles and social upheaval we've had to deal with as a result of the internet. We didn't touch upon Arab Spring and things like that. In some ways, it's great for coordinating political
Yes.
action. In some ways, it's stifling everything. So it's a great question of what kind of utopia does it promise, and how do we access the better
That's a
parts
good.
of it?
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, that's a good way.
I think on that note, we will we'll let you go. Dwight was right. Dwight Coder, our mutual friend, said that you are the guy to talk to, and he was correct.
I just want to thank you so much for being here. And this was amazing,
An
amazing
amazing
discussions.
conversation. Thank you very, very
Conversation.
much.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you.
It was really stimulating. Enjoyed it so much.
And this is exciting. Thank you.
Thank you for watching or listening to The Internet is Crack. Tune in next week when we have another great conversation about robotics, AI, and the internet. You can watch us or listen to us on YouTube or Spotify or many other outlets. And don't forget to follow us on social media. See you next Monday.